Right, want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bashim Hakodash. I want to give double honor to the Apostle of G Master as well. And salutations to the Akim, to the Akwaf, and to the hopeful elect across and scattered across the four corners. Now, this is Shakar Karab from GMS Virginia. Don't per se have a title for this lesson. And just I'll be having different pages I have up, to come back to, go through them, try to, bring forth a lesson through the spirit. But as you can see, the American genocide, the American genocide of the so-called Indians, historical facts and real evidence, because you so-called Native Americans, like the scripture says, a troop shall take your thee, but you shall overcome. You saw the so-called white man conquered the so-called Native Americans to the point of, genocide, because you don't really hear about them. You don't really, unless you know them, unless you're in certain areas in their history that talked about. Sorry, yeah. A lot is not known about the atrocity. They talk a lot about so-called blacks, which is evident as well, clear as day. But one thing they try to hide is the genocide and the hatred and the murder, rape, rob, and murder of so-called Native Americans, which are the Tribe of Gad. Now, as you see in front of us, you have. Let me see. I guess I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna just scroll down. Yeah. So I'm just gonna read the beginning parts of it, then scroll down. Like the scripture says, how are the things of Esau searched out? The scripture says in Ezekiel, I want to say 35, 37. I always get them mixed up, but it tells you about, the perpetual hatred that you had against Israel, or for roughly paraphrasing, could be Judah. But, that hatred, stemmed down also on Northern Kingdom. So I said the term genocide made from the ancient Greek word genos, race, nation, or tribe. Let me see. Killing and annihilation. So I'm not going to read everything. But it says, anybody who's watching can freeze the video and can read. Or you can, I believe you can type this lettering, this wording in. You can pull it up on your own. But so it said, in 1946, United Nations UN General Assembly affirmed genocide as a crime under international law in Resolution 96, which stated that genocide is the denial of the right of existence of entire human groups, as homicide is the denial of the right to live of individual human beings. Let me see. Like I said, I'm going to allow the people viewing to read this. You can pause it, but I'm going to jump down. So I'm just going to read the beginning of each section. So it says, let me see. So, July 4, 1776, the United States of America was founded with the Declaration of Independence, which openly stated that he, the British King, has excited domestic insurrection amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages and slandered Native Americans as the merciless Indian savages. The U.S. government and leaders treated Native Americans with a belief in white superiority and supremacy, set out to annihilate the Indians and attempt to eradicate the race through cultural genocide. So, during the American War of Independence, 1775-1783, the Second War of Independence, 1812-1815, and the Civil War, 1861-1865, the U.S. leaders, eager to transform its plantation economy as an adjunct to European colonialism and to expand their territories, coveted the vast Indian lands and launched thousands of attacks on Indian tribes, slaughtering Indian chiefs, soldiers, and even civilians, and taking Indian lands for themselves. In 1862, the United States enacted the Homestead Act, which provided that every American citizen above the age of 21 with a mere registration fee of $10 could acquire no more than 160 acres, about 64.75 hectares of land. I want to say acres of land in the West. Lured by the land, the white people swarmed into the Indian areas and started a massacre that resulted in the death of thousands of Indians. So it says, two. I'm going to read this. The leaders of the U.S. government at that time openly claimed that the skin of Indians could be peeled off to make tall boots. Yo. That Indians must be annihilated. Matter of fact, let me make sure I bookmark this. It's crazy. So, that Indians must be annihilated or driven to places that no one will go. That Indians had to be wiped out swiftly, and that only dead Indians are good Indians. American soldiers saw the slaughter of Indians as natural, even in honor, and would not rest until they were all killed. Similar hate rhetoric and atrocities abound and are well documented in many Native American extermination monographs. That's why even here throughout Virginia, you have a lot of Gadite sites and, those pamphlets, not pamphlets, but, when you go through certain areas, and I mean all through Virginia, I mean through the, I want to say the mountainous side of Virginia, which is 81, then you have Central, which is the countryside, and then you have, hold on, Salaki, bear with me one moment. You have 81, you have Richmond, the Central, many Gadite landscapes, Chesterfield, Powhatan, I want to say Cumberland, your country areas. Then you have Southwest. Then you even have 757 area, the Tidewater area. Yeah, and amongst this all these regions, you had a lot of Gadites, and even in North Carolina as well. So Gad was everywhere. But the point is this: Esau really showed his hatred towards the Gad, and one thing about it too, because Esau pretty much swept their acts and their atrocities underneath the rug, what they did to the northern tribes, so-called Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's why one thing I always remember too, because being amongst Northern Kingdom, if you go to their schools, what you have to pay for, and you have to wear the uniform, everything is whitewashed. They don't really teach you anything about, anything about what happened to so-called Taínos, the so-called Mayans, the Arawak. Basically, they don't teach you anything about the original people of the land, which is, their forefathers. And, when you go to, what's that Indian killer? Hold on. And you also had the Colonial School that had the schools to what you gonna call it what you gonna call it to destroy the Indian, so-called Indian. So let me I think Indian killer. Let me see, Indian killer. Should pop right up. Andrew Jackson. Yeah, there we go. Andrew Jackson. And I'll probably go into Andrew Jackson in it was the 1830s. So yeah. Bear with me one moment. Damn it. Yeah. So again, if you don't look up and dig and do your research, basically Esau pretty much how you say it swept these atrocities underneath the rug. And see this narrate that they only black, which they did, they destroyed so-called blacks in America and strategic way, the plans and the maneuvers they did to the so-called blacks here in America. But see, they set this thing up black and white, for political gain, political reasons. But they also never mentioned what they also did to so-called Native Americans and also to the so-called Indians here in the islands and in Central America and South America. So it says blood massacres and atrocities. So since the colonists set foot in North America, they had systematically and extensively hunted American bison, cutting off the source of food and basic livelihood of the Indians and causing their death from starvation in large numbers. Now, one thing, if you want to look at how besiege, about anything about a besiege, go read the book of Judith, and they'll tell you how Holofernes' plan, what he did, he pretty much stopped Jake from coming out to get water, and then Jake was ready to subdue themselves into them. And just like modern day, that's what's going on now with Jake. Now they're cutting down and they're poisoning the air, they're poisoning the water, and they're poisoning the food and cutting back your food. So and again, Jake is not even has any wisdom or knowledge of even growing or doing anything upon the land, because even us know anything about ourselves in the Feast of the First Fruits. And one thing that the Feast of the First Fruits teaches us is how to basically knowledge of the land and how to plant and how to pretty much grow food. So you have things that you can eat, but again, our people have become broken. Esau has broken us and made us dependent upon him. So again, man, I don't want to read. Again, brothers and sisters can just pause and read. So it says you had the California Gold Rush, 1811, American troops. From November 1813 to 1814, the U.S. Army launched the Creek War against the Native Americans. On November 29, 1864, Pastor John Chivington massacred Indians at Sand Creek in southeastern Colorado due to the opposition of a few Indians to the signing of a land grant agreement. So I gotta read this one. So Maria Montoya, it says it was one of the most notorious massacres of Native Americans. Maria Montoya, a professor of history at New York University, said in an interview that Chivington soldiers scalped women and children, beheaded them, and paraded them through the streets upon their return to Denver. So again, how are the things of Esau being searched out? So and it says, "Come together, let us assemble together to let them cut them off from being a nation." Psalms 83. So James Anaya, former UN Special Rapporteur on the rights of indigenous people, submitted his report after a country visit. I'm gonna let Bo just read that. So on Dakota on December 29, 1890, near the Wounded Knee Creek in South Dakota, U.S. troops fired at the Indians, killing and injuring more than 350 people, according to the U.S. In 1930, the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs began sterilizing Indian women through the Indian Health Service Program. Oh, damn, so they was, Esau, boy. Was conducted in the name of protecting the health of Indian women. Hey, don't that sound familiar to you, you nigga woman? And in some cases, even performed without the woman's knowledge. Damn, so statistics suggest that in early 1970s, more than 42% of Indian women of childbearing age were sterilized. This resulted in the near extinction for many small tribes. By 1976, approximately 70,000 Indian women had been forcibly sterilized. Yep, here go. Um, damn, Andrew Jackson, Slaki. In 1830, the United States passed the Indian Removal Act, which marked the institutionalization of forced relocation of Indians in the country. The act legally deprived Indian tribes of the right to live in the eastern United States, forcing some 100,000 Indians to move to the west of the Mississippi River from their ancestral lands in the south. And that is funny because you'll see some Gadites, and it's crazy because again, this being their lands, me personally, I probably have seen. I'm talking about the your no, not how you say it, what's the word? Not I can't think how you would say it. No shadow of a doubt. These were Gadites. They had the brown skin, they had the long black hair, and some of them also be looking look light skinned as well. But the point is, I've probably seen maybe about 3 or 4 so-called Gadites in my whole life. But I know if you live in the Midwest region, you'll see them more. In Dakota, on down Oklahoma, etc. But even when you go amongst them, they have a lot of poverty, and they have a lot of depression, and they have a lot of alcohol um, problems going on because they've been destroyed as a nation. Because Esau really deprived them. So it says, so it says the migration began in the summer heat and continued through the winter with sub-zero temperatures, trudging 16 miles each day. Thousands died along the way as a result of hunger, cold, exhaustion, or disease and plague. So, as you can read. In 1839, before Texas joined the United States, the government demanded that Indians remove immediately or face the entire destruction of their possessions and the extermination of their tribe. Large numbers of Cherokees who refused to comply were shot and murdered. So jumping down, in 1863, the U.S. military carried out a scorched earth policy to forcibly remove the Navajo tribe, burning houses and crops slaughtering livestock and vandalizing properties under the Army's watch. Navajos had to walk several hundred kilometers to a reservation in eastern New Mexico. Pregnant women and seniors who fell behind were shot on the spot. Let me see. So let me. Yeah. So here it is. So let me see. Yeah. So again, as they always Esau does. He always um he knows how to play on words. His subtlety. So when Esau talk about these things, he talks as if it was a great thing, meaning, damn, how I'm just on the tip of my tongue. Pretty much, he paints a good narrate. Oh, we won, we were victorious. We won over the savages, the brute beast, the mindless, spineless Indians. So when you hear or read about the stories and the accounts, you'll be like, damn, yay, the white man, yay, the white man, massa, such and such and such. But all in all, it was a slaughter. And say for instance, you had Gad that just roused up. They stumbled across this and they say, you know what? We put the foot down. Enough's enough. We going out there and pillaging. We want our land back. Now, you know what Esau would do. Esau would set the narrate. These savage Indians, just like how they do with so-called blacks. When damn, I had the perfect example. I can't think of it, but when Esau conquered blacks, he so-called black people in America, and when he makes news articles, it's always how you say, white man fighting for his life or upstanding American fights, and but if it was the so-called black person, disgruntled, how you say it, mad, angry black man fights. You get the point. So, sadly, to whitewash this part of history, U.S. historians often glorify the westward expansion. So, the words like the conquerors, we had a amazing victory. We were victorious. Now, the pushing forwarding, basically they painted a good picture. But all in all, it's lies and deceit. They stole, raped, robbed, and murdered the tribe of Gad. So it says, so you Gadites, if you're mad, you have all right fucking reason to be angry. Just like you so-called black people in America, you have all right to be fucking angry. It's like the so-called Puerto Rico. A lot of Puerto Ricans know their land is fucked up. So if you're a so-called angry Puerto Rican, you have all right to be fucking angry. If you're a so-called Cuban, you have all right to be a fucking angry Cuban. Don't let your conqueror, your master, try to sit there and tell you that you ought not be angry. You damn right you should be fucking angry because you're a devil, and you're lying. But the thing about it, you have to wait and be patient upon the Lord, which I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds kind of hard, but you have to wait for the Lord because, if you want to get your revenge now, it's going to fail and it's going to be whack. And, the way, the retribution and, I always say this to myself, man. How the way I want to do these Edomites, man. I need spiritual powers, man. I need spiritual power. I can't do what I want with with Esau's blessings, man. It should be whack and it should be corny. That shit is tired, man. That's your old typical James Bond type movie, John Wick. Nah, I need some. Both understand. But so it says, yeah, westward expansion as the American people's pursuit of economic development in the western frontier, claiming that it accelerated the improvement of American democracy, boosted economic prosperity, contributed to the formation and development of the American national spirit. They make no mention of the brutal massacre of Native Americans. Yeah, they don't. In fact, it was after the westward expansion that the budding civilization of the Americas were destroyed, and the Indians, as one of the several major human races, faced complete extinction. So it says forced assimilation and cultural extinction. Again, I'm gonna try to just hurry it up. Let me see. In the 1870s and 80s, the U.S. government adopted a more aggressive policy of forced assimilation to obliterate the social fabric and culture of Indian tribes. The core objective of the strategy was to destroy the original group affiliation as well as the ethnic and tribal identity as the Indians and transform them into individual Americans with American citizenship, civic consciousness, and identification, and mainstream American values for measures were taken to this end. And that's where you had the Corn Iowa Indian schools. Destroy the Indian, keep the man. You can read more about that. Let me see. It says, fourth, eradicating the Indian sense of community and tribal identity by adopting measures on education. Oh my goodness, doesn't that sound familiar for you so-called Negroes, huh? So it says education, language, culture, and religion in a series of social policies. And this is how the so-called black man was turned out to be how they are now. Because your education has been turned around, your language has been stripped from you, your culture has been given to you, and your religion was given to you. That's why you've been given Jesus Christ, the so-called white man, which his name is Yahweh Shah in the Hebrew. So it says, we're beginning with the Civilization Fund Act of 1819. The United States established or funded boarding schools across the country and forced Indian children to attend. So damn, man. So it says, there have been altogether 367 boarding schools throughout the United States. By 1925, 60,889 Indian children have been forced to attend boarding schools. And again, that's a whole generation. In 1926, 83% of Indian children were enrolled. You see that? So this is one generation can. How do you say one generation? If you destroy one generation, I think they said it takes 40 years or 40 years to undo the unraveling. But by that time, something to that effect. I was just reading, looking at a video about it, and I can't remember the video I was even watching, but it tells you, dude was telling you how when you destroy a generation, it takes about 40 years or a whole new another generation to start over, man, something like to that fact. But my point is this: Esau fucked that generation up, man. And when you mess up those minds of those generations, it's just a continuous cycle. Cause all it takes is one generation to be messed up, keep on fucking up the rest of the people that come after them. So it says, guided by the idea of kill the Indian, save the man. Yep, the United States banned Indian children from speaking their native language, wearing their traditional clothes, or carrying out traditional activities. You see that? Doesn't that sound familiar? So-called black man. So it says, erasing their language, culture, and identity in the act of cultural genocide. Indian children suffered immensely at school, and some died from starvation, disease, and abuse. This was allowed by a policy of forced foster care. Children were forcibly placed in the care of whites, which was a continuation of assimilation policy and denial of cultural identity. These practices were not banned until 1978, when the Indian Child Welfare Act was passed. And in the passing act, it was acknowledged in the Congress that a large number of Indian children had been removed to non-Indian families and institutions without permission, resulting in the breakup of Indian families. But by that time, the programming has been set full and complete. So, damn, the American Indians remain in serious survival and development crisis. So the U.S. government's genocide of Indians had led to a precipitous drop in the population of Indian communities, deterioration of their living conditions, lack of social security, low economic status, threats to their safety, and plummeted political influence. Sharp decline in the population. I'm not going to read it all. Between 1800 and 1900, the American Indian lost more than half of their population. Deteriorating living conditions, Indians were pushed from the east to the barren west, and most of the Indian reservations were located in remote areas unfit for agriculture, much less for investment in industrial development. And this goes back to those curses too in Deuteronomy 28. So a lack of social security, according to a report released by the Indian Health Service, life expectancy of American Indians is 5.5 years lower than that of average Americans, and the incidence of diabetes, chronic liver disease, and alcohol addiction. So it says poor economic and security conditions, disadvantaged political status. But yes, it's mighty funny. This during that test, that pandemic, all of a sudden, Esau was worried about so-called Black, Latino, Hispanic, and Native American. I wonder why. So it says six endangered culture. And again, you can take the time to read it. It's a long article, but it's heavy. Pinpoints a lot of atrocities that Esau did upon Israel with the Tribe of Gad, because this lessons about the Tribe of Gad. So let me see something real quick. So Obadiah 1 and 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. But Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle them and devour them, and they shall not be any remain of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it, man. So it's going to be a recompense. It's like when you're going to Gad, the troop. That's what it says. Genesis 49:19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So it's going to be a great awakening of the tribe of Gad shortly to come. You know, because there's already a devastation going on now. There's already a lot of plagues and, you know, rape, robbery, murder that has happened to the tribe of Gad. And I'll never forget this, man. Let me see, the Native American women. I got two, so I'm gonna end it. American women. Let me see that video come up. Oh yeah, I remember this guy right here. I might let that rock. Yeah, I can't find it, but yeah, I can't. Oh, here it is right here. Native American woman stands her ground against whites. I'll never forget when I saw this. I'm like, yo, I said, oh shit. Yo, the tribe is waking up. And then when I saw this right here, I was like, yo, my goodness, man. Yo, we might be out here very soon. But I'm going to let this video play them. Let it rock. Then I'm end it.
We're the only legal ones here. We have Native Americans here. Yeah. We should have put that sign up when you son of a bitches came. Yeah, that's right. That represents blood. That represents blood spilled by Native Americans protecting this land from the invaders. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You don't want to hear the goddamn truth, do you? Get on, bitch. You don't want to hear the truth. That's what that flag stands for. All the Native Americans you killed to plant your houses here. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Well, that was Shalom.